Yo, what's going on, Headliner Nation? It's the Week 2 injury show where I go through the entire NFL slate, tell you about all the injuries that you need to know about for your fantasy team, and there's a lot to talk about, so let's get into it. All right, before we get into the actual matchups, we do have 3 moments of silence to have for players that had their season ended in Week 1. First up, we got the one everybody's talking about, quarterback Aaron Rodgers with a torn Achilles. He is done for the year, as are probably the Jets' Super Bowl aspirations. We have running back J.K. Dobbins. He tore his Achilles as well. 2 brutal Achilles tears in Week 1. J.K. Dobbins done for the year. What will the Ravens do at running back? Hopefully you put in some waiver bids for Gus Edwards and Justice Hill. And finally, the Browns' offensive tackle, starting right tackle, Jack Conklin, tore his ACL and MCL in Week 1. He is also done for the year. So moment of silence for those 3 guys. But the show has to go on. We know that the injuries are going to pile up as the year goes on. It's football. It's what happens. But let's talk about the game that happened last night, Thursday Night Football. Going on right now as I record this, Vikings at the Eagles. The Vikings came in pretty healthy, only had center Garrett Bradbury dealing with a back injury, and it's worth knowing because he was ruled out with that back issue early last week, didn't play this week, and it is concerning given the fact that he had a back injury last year that cost him quite a few games. As for the Eagles, they had a couple starters out. Linebacker Nakobe Dean dealing with a foot injury. He left in Week 1, didn't return, and was placed on IR. So we've got a minimum of 4 games missed for Nakobe Dean. And then starting running back Kenneth Gainwell, a little bit of a surprise starter last week, but Kenneth Gainwell only gets 1 start in before he has a rib injury. I do think that he may have been able to play if this game hadn't been played on Thursday. But again, the short week, he had a tough turnaround. I think there's a good chance that he will be back in Week 3, but we'll talk about it next week. All right, heading into the Sunday early games. First up, we got Packers at the Falcons. Packers dealing with quite a few injuries on the offensive side of the ball. Running back Aaron Jones has a hamstring strain, did not practice on Wednesday or Thursday. Jones downplayed the injury when it happened on Sunday, but the team looked really, really good when he was 100% healthy. I do expect him to miss this week, but I hope that that will mean he will be back sooner rather than later. They're also dealing with wide receiver Christian Watson. He's still got a hamstring injury that caused him to miss Week 1. He has not practiced yet. Does not look like he's going to be ready for Week 2. Wide receiver Romeo Doubs dealing with a hamstring strain. Is it Dubs or Dobbs? Let me know in the comment. I feel like I get that wrong every single time I say it, but he was able to play on Sunday. He's been limited this week, but I think that's more of a precaution with this hamstring injury. I don't think anything new is coming from that, and I do think that he is going to be the wide receiver 1 for the Packers this week. As for the Falcons, they don't have a lot of injuries to talk about, so we're going to move straight into the Raiders at the Bills. Now, Raiders do have wide receiver Jacoby Myers dealing with a brutal concussion. He was knocked clean out on Sunday. He did probably have the scariest moment of the weekend because he took a massive hit and did not move for a significant amount of time. He was able to have an incredible day prior to that. So if you started him, good job with Jacoby Myers, but I would be tough. It would be a very tough thing for him to be able to come back in just a week after getting knocked out cold. The NFL is really cracking down on this concussion protocol. Very unlikely that we see Jacoby Myers. As for the Bills, they don't have a lot of injuries, so we're moving on to the Ravens at the Bengals. Ravens starting safety Marcus Williams has a torn pec, went to the locker room, did not return last week. He's already been ruled out for this week, and the team is debating surgery for him. It may not be season ending, but I doubt that we see Marcus Williams anytime soon. He's going to be out this week. Offensive tackle Ronnie Staley's dealing with a knee injury. He has never played a full season in his 7-year NFL career. Didn't practice Wednesday. Looks like he is doubtful for this week. I don't expect Ronnie Staley to suit up. Center Tyler Lindenbaum was ruled out week 1 with an ankle injury, still not practicing. I expect him to miss this week as well. So a lot of injuries on the offensive line for the Ravens. Now, tight end Mark Andrews, probably the most fantasy relevant guy of this group. He's dealing with that quad strain. Was a little bit surprised that he missed last week, but he was able to get limited practices in on Wednesday and Thursday. Looks like we should have Mark Andrews back in week 2. As for the Bengals, not a lot of injuries to talk about. We are heading over to the Seahawks at the Lions. Now, Seahawks dealing with mostly issues at the tackle position. Left tackle Charles Cross has a toe injury. Right tackle Abe Lucas dealing with patella soreness that he had throughout preseason. He was placed on IR, so they are already out the right tackle in Abe Lucas. Sorry, I think I said Lewis, but Abe Lucas. Make sure I say that right. I am very worried that neither one of these offensive tackles is going to be available. We know that Lucas isn't going to play. I don't expect Charles Cross to play. They signed veteran Jason Peters to try to fill in that gap, but I'm very worried about the O-line moving forward without both starting tackles. Now, as for the Lions, they have a tackle out as well. Taylor Decker dealing with a high ankle sprain. Has not practiced yet this week, and I do not expect him to play. Now, heading over to the Colts at the Texans, Colts quarterback Anthony Richardson left the game late with knee and ankle injuries, was getting beat up while he was trying to run. He's learning very quickly that the NFL tacklers are a little bit more brutal than the guys at college. He's not going to be able to out-athlete very many linebackers at the NFL level. He's going to take some shots if he doesn't learn to protect himself. Now, we know he missed a few snaps at the end of Sunday's game, but I do expect him to play in week 2. Now, his guard, Quentin Nelson, dealing with a toe injury, has not practiced this week. So I do think he's going to be down an all-pro guard in Quentin Nelson this week. Moving on to the Texans, safety Jalen Petre. I'm not sure if I'm saying it right. He has a bruised lung, though, was taken to the hospital as a precaution, and now has missed 2 straight practices. I would expect him to sit out this week as a precaution. And wide receiver John Mechie, dealing with that hamstring strain, missed last week, but was able to get back-to-back practices in this week. It does indicate that maybe Mechie will be able to start. I expect him to be able to play on Sunday. Very exciting NFL debut for a guy that missed all of last season with a cancer diagnosis. Excited to see John Mechie make it back onto an NFL field, or just make it to an NFL field finally after being drafted. Heading over to the Chiefs at the Jaguars, probably the one everyone's talking about. Travis Kelce, the tight end for the Chiefs, dealing with the bone bruise in his knee, was limited on Wednesday and Thursday. I don't do this very often, but I do think that Travis Kelce is going to be a true game time decision this week. I'm really getting a hard gauge on whether or not he's going to be able to play or not. The limited practices don't mean a whole lot. The Chiefs are notorious for being a little bit fluid with their ability to name a guy as limited when they're really not doing a whole lot in practice. Really tough call. I think it's going to depend on how he performs Sunday morning. Bone bruises do typically take a long time to heal, somewhere between 1 to 3 months for a significant bone bruise. And by all accounts, this was a very deep and very significant bone bruise. So Travis Kelce, I'd be surprised if he was able to suit up and be 100% in just 12 days. Knowing the timeline, I'm not going to say that he's going to be for sure out, but definitely have a backup plan for Travis Kelce. As for the Jags, no major injuries. Moving on to the Bears at the Buccaneers. Real flyby with this one. Neither one of these teams has an injury that's worth talking about. So we're going to head straight into Chargers at the Titans. Now, the Chargers running back Austin Eckler dealing with an ankle sprain. Didn't practice Wednesday or Thursday. They are calling this an ankle sprain, but on the video, I see something much closer to a high ankle sprain mechanism with this injury. The difference is that a high ankle sprain is going to be a lot more significant from a production standpoint and a timeline standpoint. So I know they're calling it an ankle sprain, but I am very concerned that this is actually a high ankle sprain. I would be very surprised to see Austin Eckler suit up this week. Definitely have a backup in place. Maybe you got Joshua Kelly. He seems to be the next man up, but don't underestimate this Tennessee run defense. They are going to make his life very difficult if he's the starter. Now, the Chargers have another major player missing this week, most likely defensive end. Joey Bosa has a hamstring strain, didn't practice Wednesday or Thursday. Not looking good for the Chargers on that front. He is unlikely to play as well. As for wide receiver Mike Williams, he's dealing with a concussion. He left with a concussion, but did get cleared to return in Sunday's game. So they're calling it a concussion. I doubt that he's actually in concussion protocol because he got cleared to go back in. I expect him to be able to play this week. As for the Titans, wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins dealing with an ankle sprain. Another ankle sprain that may possibly, based on the mechanism, be a high ankle sprain. He hasn't practiced yet this week. This has happened to Hopkins in the past. We've had ankle issues the last few years, so I would not be surprised if DeAndre Hopkins does miss this game. He used to be a guy that you could trust to play through anything, but in his older age, they've been a lot more careful with him, and he was really the only wide receiver that got anything going for the Titans, so I do expect him to sit out this week for the long haul of the rest of the season. Again, not expecting DeAndre Hopkins to play in week 2. All right, heading into the midday slate on Sunday. First up, we got Giants at the Cardinals. Giants have quite a few injuries to talk about. Offensive tackle Andrew Thomas has a hamstring strain. He was able to come back in the game on Sunday, but they did an MRI. He hasn't been practicing. It looks like they are going to take it slow with him moving forward. I don't think that he is going to play this week. As for tight end Darren Waller, he was a late injury addition at the end of last week with a hamstring strain. Managed to play, but just know if for some reason a guy gets listed late in the week on Friday and I haven't talked about him in the video, we will pin a comment to the top of the comments of this video. Please check that. See if there's a comment there before you hit me up to talk about a specific player that didn't get listed until Friday. Now, as for kicker Graham Gano, he's dealing with an ankle sprain. He was limited on Thursday, but I do think he's going to be able to play. The Cardinals don't have a lot of injuries to talk about, so we're going to head over to the 49ers at the Rams. Now, the 49ers are pretty healthy. They should be healthy. They absolutely smoked my Steelers last week, but the Rams do have wide receiver Puka Nacua dealing with an oblique injury, was a full practice on Wednesday, and then did not practice at all on Thursday. Very concerning. We're really going to have to wait to see what Friday tells us. So as of this video, check to see Puka Nacua's status on Friday. If he does not practice, I would not expect him to play, and I know that he was a major waiver wire addition for a lot of people. That would be a huge bummer if he isn't able to play, but if he can't go, Tutu Atwell is where I'm pivoting to. He should have a ton of volume in the passing game for the Rams. Now, heading over to the Jets at the Cowboys. Jets running back Breece Hall dealing with that ACL tear from last year. Limited on Thursday, just regular rest, no real concern for Sunday here. We'll see if he can keep the big plays going. Didn't get a lot of volume, but made the most of it. If his volume keeps increasing and he keeps being super efficient with it and busting out big runs, Breece Hall is going to be a starter in your fantasy team lineups sooner rather than later. As for the Cowboys, wide receiver Brandon Cooks dealing with an MCL sprain. He didn't practice Wednesday or Thursday. He said he feels okay, but the back-to-back DNPs does have me leaning towards him not playing this week. Now, they also have offensive tackle Tyler Smith dealing with a hamstring strain. He missed week 1 and has not practiced yet. So I expect the Cowboys to be slow playing him coming back. I don't expect to see the big man back this week, but hopefully he'll be back next week. Now, last game of the mid-Sunday slate, we got the Commanders at the Broncos. Commanders totally healthy. No need to talk about them. As for the Broncos, tight end Greg Dulcich dealing with a hamstring strain, missed 7 games last year total with this hamstring injury on the same side. Very concerning. He's highly unlikely to play this week. Wide receiver Jerry Jeudy also dealing with a hamstring strain. Seems like there's a lot of hamstring strains early in the year this year, but he missed week 1. Jerry Jeudy is. But he did get a full practice in on Thursday. So Jerry Jeudy, full practice. I do expect him to play in week 2. Good sign for this Broncos team that just doesn't look great again this year so far. Hopefully they can start to see the Sean Payton offense clicking a little bit more with the Broncos. All right, before we get into the Sunday night game, let me tell you about our friends over at Underdog Fantasy, the best place to be playing daily fantasy in football this season. Use the code HEADLINERS when you sign up, and they will deposit match your first $100 worth of deposits. And it is definitely something you need to be doing this week because they are running a special promo. If you place a single wager on the higher or lower for Tua Tagovailoa's yardage total, you are going to get entered to win a chance at $10,000 just for playing Underdog Fantasy. That's the kind of people that the Headliners like to do business with. But let's talk about this Sunday night football game where Tua is going up against the Patriots, Dolphins at Patriots, and Tua is going to be possibly with his offensive tackle, Teron Armstead. He's dealing with a variety of ailments. Seems like that's every year for Teron Armstead, but he returned to practice this week in a limited fashion, appears on track to play. Big boon for a Fins offense that looked incredible even without him in week one. As for the Patriots, they've got some wide receiver ailments that they have to address before this weekend. Devontae Parker, Kayshon Boutte, both dealing with knee/hamstring issues. They were limited on Thursday. I do expect both of these guys to play, but they're not going to be at 100%. And really the biggest news story for the Patriots is that their entire starting offensive line is currently on the injury report. Now, I know that offensive linemen don't score fantasy points, but they affect literally everyone else that does. The entire starting offensive line is injured for the Patriots right now, and it could be trouble for Ramondre Stevenson and Mac Jones and pretty much the offense as a whole. I don't know which guys are exactly going to start or not start, but there's a good chance that 2, maybe even 3 of the starting offensive linemen are not going to be able to suit up for the Patriots. So be aware, kind of knock those guys down your rankings just a little bit because they're going to be playing behind a beat up offensive line and likely multiple backups starting for the Patriots this week. All right, last 2 games of the week. Monday Night Football doubleheader. You love when you got 2 games on Monday night. First up, we got Saints at the Panthers. Saints defensive end Peyton Turner, no relation, but if you wanted to send me a birthday card, I would take it. Maybe throw a couple hundos in there. I'm just saying. Peyton Turner, though, dealing with a turf toe injury, is expected to need surgery on this injury. He's been placed on the IR, so no defensive end for the Saints. As for running back Kendre Miller, he's dealing with a hamstring strain, kept him out of week 1, was limited on Thursday. Looks like he's going to be able to make his debut this week. Could spell some trouble for Jamal Williams, who had a tough go in week 1 as the lead back. As for the Panthers, cornerback J.C. Horn dealing with a hamstring strain. This injury appears to be pretty serious. Surgery is an option still on the table. He has not had it yet, but as for now, he's been ruled out for the foreseeable future. Wide receiver DJ Chark also dealing with a hamstring strain. He was limited on Wednesday. Chark is at least practicing this week after missing week 1. I think there's a good chance that he can play, but with the game being on a Monday night, I am sitting him for other options this week. I'm not going to try to start DJ Chark. Now, the last game of the week, my Steelers going up against the Browns at the Steelers. Browns, no injuries besides the Jack Conklin news that we talked about in the Moment of Silence segment. As for the Steelers, wide receiver Deontay Johnson has a hamstring strain. Who doesn't have a hamstring strain this week? I might have pulled my hamstring just talking about all of them. He went down hard after a big catch and run. Couldn't put any weight on his leg. That is not a good sign for the Steelers. I'm expecting him to miss multiple weeks with this. Calvin Austin, Allen Robinson, going to get a chance to see a bump in target share. Maybe we could get some targets going to George Pickens as well. We'll see. Maybe the guy could get open down the field, make some incredible catches inbounds this week. But I do like Calvin Austin as kind of a 1-for-1 replacement for Deontay Johnson. I want to see what Calvin Austin can do, see what we have with that guy. As for tight end Pat Freiermuth, he has a chest injury. Pat was left the game after getting hit in the chest multiple times. Kenny Pickett was trying to kill Pat Freiermuth last week. I do expect him to be able to play, but he is banged up and hurting. As for defensive tackle Cam Hayward, He has a groin injury that is very serious. He is expected to have surgery. He's going to miss about 8 weeks with this injury. I do expect him to go on the IR and miss at least 4 weeks, but probably looking at more to that 8 to 10 week for this recovery for Cam Hayward. And I'm finally done with the week 2 injury updates. All right, that's it for week 2. Let me know in the comments, do you guys like these videos? Do you appreciate a place where you can just come once a week and enjoy a little bit of injury content so you don't have to be constantly searching for updates all week for your fantasy team? Let me know in the comments if you enjoy it. Like the video, please. It helps us out a ton. I can't tell you guys how much it helps for you guys to interact with this video. Like it, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel. We have got you covered here at the Fantasy Headliners. So much great content coming out each and every week. We are on top of it. The most consistent YouTube channel for fantasy football on this app. I mean, this is as consistent as you're going to get. We're coming at you guys each and every day with the content that you need to win your fantasy championships. And if you want to join the Headliner Nation, the official Headliner Nation, make sure you hit the join button under this video, become a member, get access to the Discord channel. It is unbelievable how many great conversations we have, and we are getting you 24/7 access to all the members of the Fantasy Headliner crew. We are absolutely committed to everyone on that Discord channel. The members make Headliner Nation, and we appreciate everybody that has already become a member. Join the nation. You will not regret it. Sunday morning, if you're wondering what happened Sunday morning for the doc, injury update Sunday morning. I'm dropping tons of Sunday morning injury updates. You're not going to be searching around looking for tweets, figuring out if you guys are playing or not, because I am dropping injury updates every single Sunday morning as soon as they come out. So make sure you join, make sure you become a member of Headliner Nation, or at a minimum, just subscribe to the channel. But that's all I got for you guys this week. Appreciate our sponsors, Manscaped. Use the code Headliners, get 20% off plus free shipping. Make sure you're heading over to Pristine Auction and watching the live shows on Saturday. Those live shows absolutely crush it, and we give away all sorts of goodies from our friend at Pristine Auction. Use the code Headliners when you sign up there. We got a little something nice for you there as well. But that's all I got for you guys this week. The doc is out.